Good morning, guys. Welcome back to Hey Adam G Live, your online inspirational talk. Today, I am so privileged to be talking to a iconic figure in the history of Miss Universe. His lasting legacy of working in various capacities for the Miss Universe organization for 20 years made him such an endearing icon or figure in the pageant system. Before I bring him out, let's take a look at this video of this person whom I'm talking about.
Humor. My name's Scott Grossman. I'm the choreographer for the Miss Universe organization and one of the producers of tonight's event. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have had an incredible experience being here. We have now yet one more week before we really do televise the entire production. Wednesday on CBS at 9 p.m. and here at the Universal Center, live presentation, a 2-hour presentation of the full Miss Universe final night will take form. We will see 10 of our finalists competing in interview, swimsuit, evening gown, then narrow it down to 5 finalists. They will also interview again, and then from there they go into a pick 3, and from those 3 we find our new Miss Universe 1999.
So, without further ado, please welcome him on the show, live all the way from Minnesota, USA, former Miss Universe choreographer and producer, the amazing Mr. Scott Grossman. Hi, Sir Scott.
Hello, hello. What a treat it is to see you. It's a very
Yes,
nice.
I'm so grateful that you were able to say yes to this interview.
Right. Well, I'm 61 years old now, and I live in the mountains of Minnesota. I grew a beard, and I have long hair because of the pandemic. And I am now a pastor, and I have a church that is regulated for non-denominational, which is Greystone Chapel. And it's a quite an undertaking now that I'm retired.
Oh, that's great to hear. I mean, yes, we really have a high regard for you, considering that the body of work that you have done for the Miss Universe pageant system, even though it has been more than 10 years ago, still resonates even up until today.
Oh, I'm so honored. I'm so grateful because that was such a great time in my life to create those kind of pieces of art for television. And I was just so grateful that the world still gets to see it.
So how do you feel, apart from feeling great, how do you feel when you look back at those videos of your time in Miss Universe?
Well, first and foremost, Miss Universe was absolutely the top of the line of pageants when we were working on them. They put so much money into the pageants. All the networks wanted to have them. They were highly rated. The ratings were really basically better than most television shows are today. But now, so much the pageant hasn't had that great of following in, I guess, professional ratings. But we had such a great run for the longest time, and I'm so proud of the team work that we had put together for those pageants that I got the chance to work on. They were masterpieces at times.
Yes, yes, yes. And those videos, even now on YouTube, yeah, we can attest to what you are saying right now. But before we get to Miss Universe, we're so, I'm so excited to relive your career as a choreographer. You also choreographed some of the famous movies in Hollywood, including Miss Congeniality. It was such an iconic moment, that 1 in a million um, dance number in the middle of the film. How did this all come about?
Well, for the longest time, I was always going to Hollywood to be a actor and a dancer. And going there, I pursued that career and continued to have a wonderful career besides the choreography. But now, being 61 years old, I'm kind of outside of the entertainment field. And I look back at it now and think what a wonderful time it was to be part of just television in general. It was really a great moment in my life.
Oh, yes. And not yes, I thought you're not I thought you were only content producer for Miss Universe, but you have also been working outside Miss Universe system, like sharing or lending your talent in various Hollywood movies, and even
Right. Well, Miss,
Princess
yes,
Diaries and Just My Luck.
yes. Well, Princess Diaries, Miss Congeniality, Just My Luck, the Nicolas Cage movie. Many of these films that I had done all came from my background in television and film, and they were all related and connected to Miss Universe on some level because of my expertise in that field.
Yes, that's great to hear. And you know what? Now that I'm talking to you, I feel like, since your work began in Miss Universe, even until now, I feel like your life is like a Hollywood movie waiting to happen. An actor and well-renowned choreographer, and now a pastor. So, what brought you to that life change?
Well, my husband and I, Jeff, decided at when we were retiring. He's an actor and a writer. Jeff is coming out with a book this next year called Crumbs and Other Things I Followed Home. And it's a religious or a spiritual book marking the journey of a gay man in Hollywood. And for myself, I knew that I wanted to continue doing work with many people as I did in the rehearsal hall with the contestants. I always had a
Yes.
spiritual ending. I always had a spiritual connection there. I played really great music, and all of the ladies and everybody were very part of that whole time I was in it. They got excited because it was spiritually designed for them. And so when I left the pageants, I decided that it would be better for me to go into a ministry, and that's why I decided to go pick up my master's degree at 50 years old, and I now have a degree in theology and divinity, and I'm a pastor in a non-denominational church. I created my own church, by the way.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Mhm.
How has this new life of yours impacted your life so far?
Well, it's allowed me to stay in the spiritual realm of serving people. And when I was serving Miss Universe, I was giving so much of my energy as well as my own talent to these ladies just because I just believed in them so much, and I liked them all so very deeply. We all related to each other. We were just trying to get by, and they were learning new dance steps, and I was teaching them, and we just really seemed to relate to each other.
Oh, that's nice to hear. And you know what I love about your ministry right now is your passion for spreading inclusivity worship. How can you spread? How do you think? How did this all come about? How can you spread more about God's word through inclusivity worship?
Well, that's a really great question. I believe that that question really is answered by just being able to be present, like this interview. You interviewing me is a blessing. God has given me the opportunity to speak to you through technology, and still connected to the Miss Universe. It feels so relatable because we all have something in common, because there is just one God, and the universe is all of ours. And I believe that when we are connected, we have this great relationship that is spiritual, that goes beyond any means that we could even understand. So the Miss Universe pageant itself has its own spiritual connection, I feel, for the world.
I love how you are relating everything to spirituality right now. I wish a lot of pageant fans could watch this interview so that, to see the new Scott Grossman that we are hearing right now.
Well, thank you. I have to say this, Adam, that I feel that there's a bigger message out here. All those years working with Miss Universe, all of those wonderful ladies, the ones that didn't even get in the top 10 or the top 20, but the ones that were just there just to be representing their countries, those ladies were the ones that really benefited from the spiritual connection we all had. And they went into their own countries and made people for their countries, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of like it passes itself on. And I believe that Miss Universe has that quality. I just wish that it would come back to it.
I get you, sir. I get your point, sir. But let's discuss that later. So yeah, so let's now go to the second part of the interview. There's no doubt that your work as a choreographer in Miss Universe is really filled with so many iconic moments in the pageant history. I'm pretty sure you left a lasting legacy in the Miss Universe organization. I'm curious to ask, how did you land this much coveted job?
Well, as a dancer out of Hollywood, I was related to a dancer who was working for Miss Universe, Alex Cole. And Alex Cole was a wonderful dancer. He was a solid gold dancer. And Alex invited me to be with him and the choreographer at the time, Tad Tadlock. And Tad Tadlock, who was an incredible designer and artist in her own right, created some wonderful dance numbers for Miss Universe in the earlier stages before I even came on. And then when I came on, we enhanced that. And then with the director of television, Tony Sharmley, he just passed away at 99 years old. But Tony was a wonderful con- confidant for all of the television networks because he knew how to shoot TV and he knew how to shoot these ladies. So, with all the choreography experience that I had learned from Tad Tadlock, I then took and then made my own way as I interviewed for the head job it was many years ago now, but yeah, I interviewed from. I was doing a show in Japan, and I had to fly back for the interview, and then they gave that job to me, and here we are.
Wow. You still remember every detail
Yeah.
how you got that job. But you know what we are so impressed about is the yearly or the annual choreography that you have been doing in every edition during your time. The song selection during the opening number, even the dance routine. So I'm curious to ask, how do you get to have some type of approval in terms of determining what kind of song or dance number you will use for each production number every year? How do you
Well,
make it so fresh and innovative?
yeah, that's a good question too. Uh, each I have lived through probably about six different producers. And then when Donald Trump bought the company, there was some other producers involved. So I lived through a lot of producing groups of people. But every time I lived with these producers, I would come to them with an idea and I would try to sell them on the idea that it would be beneficial to showcase all of these ladies in a production rather than just swimsuit and evening gown. So I would sell them an idea of music and concept, and it would kind of depend on where we were, what country we were in, what kind of time of the year it was, and so on, and what music was popular at the time too. But a lot of the time, it had to be relatable to the girls, so the ladies had an opportunity to shine their best moment, even if they weren't in the top 20.
That's great to hear. You really give an equal exposure to all the girls in the show, and I'm glad that the producers are, we're listening to you, to all your suggestions during meetings. So speaking of the girls, I'm curious to ask, when you do all the blocking of these girls as a stage director, who do you put in front? The favorites, the girl with the best talent, or those with the strong countries with the strong sash factors?
Well, I'll tell you a really funny story. It's not a very good story, but one time Donald Trump came into the rehearsal space where I was rehearsing right before the telecast, and the production number was finished. I was just showing him the number, and he came up to me and he said, "Scott, could you please put the black girls in the back and put the white girls in the front?" And I said, "No, I
Oh.
cannot." I said, "I don't work that way. If they're talented, they will be seen. And if they are really in connection to the number, dance wise, choreographically, and they are performing, I don't care what color they are, Donald. So I'm not going to change them from the back to the front. So I always stuck to my story by telling people that I love it when they had passion. And if they had passion for the dance production number, then they were going to be seen.
Oh, wow. You had the courage to stand up to the Donald, considering
Yes,
that he's the boss.
I had to. I had to.
Did
I
he
would
listen
stop.
to you?
Well, how awful would it be for me to say, okay, now everybody, all the white girls come to the front, and all the colored girls or all of the brown skinned girls go to the back? No, ever. That's ridiculous.
Uh, but but is it but when Sir Donald told you that instruction or directive, were there girls who were able to hear that, or it was
No,
just between a
no, no, no.
private conversation between
It,
you and
it,
him?
it was just between he and I. But
Uh-huh.
I always reminded myself that I never ever chose people to be in the front or the side or the back because of race or nationality. I only placed them because of their talent in that particular area. If they were a good dancer, if they were a good lip syncer, if they were a good performer, it all depended on that element. It was nothing to do with anything else.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, fair enough, sir. So, speaking of those women, there are women, who join pageants who really can't dance or really don't know how to move with grace. But somehow during your time, you were able to bring out the best in them. So, how were you able to do that?
As I said in the beginning, I really feel the most important factor for me was that I had an ability to relate to these ladies on a level that was a little more spiritual than just I'm a dance teacher. So I would start the rehearsals with some really great music, and we would start to just dance, and I would guide them through certain styles of movement. And then I would look around and I would see, wow, they do that move really good. They do that move really. Oh, I like. And so I start to then create the number around what they do well. And what I do is then I give them what I feel is the interpretation of the dance, and I give them that dance move, and I let them plug into me like electricity for a moment and say, okay, I want you to feel it like that. And then she says, oh, I get it now. And then she could take the movement and then she would start to make it her own. But I always allowed them to find themselves first for them for their own needs, because if they could find comfort in dancing, then they're going to look good on stage.
And it seems to have worked. Not only that you were able to put them to be comfortable with around with you, but you were able to produce some of the best or amazing opening numbers in the history of Miss Universe. Now I'm
Thank you.
curious to ask, what has been the most memorable edition for you, and what has been the most difficult as well?
Well, each number is always so unique because it's a whole different group of ladies every year. So every production number, opening number, was really special for that year. But the ones that I really reminded myself of working with was Trinidad and Tobago, when we had all of those great big Momo Jumbos and all those great Muppets and puppets. I had a lot of character from Trinidad and Tobago. And the one that we're looking at right now with Chelsea in the front, that was a really great one in Taipei. And what I liked about it is that we used some interesting movement that was beneficial to the country that we were in, such as the arms and the fingers and how the hands are. But more than anything, my best and favorite production number for my design was the Greece number when we were in Greece, and we did the orbs, and they came up, and then we had these great big spiral dancers spinning through the air.
Oh, in Cyprus.
In Cyprus, yes, that was
Yes.
one of my favorites. Cyprus was one of my favorite production numbers because it had a story to tell, and I got to use a lot of creative art, and I just really enjoyed that number a lot. But every number I loved because the ladies put their hearts into it. I loved working with these ladies; they were fantastic.
You know, now that I'm hearing all these behind the scenes stories, it amazes me how you still, come up with that amazing choreography. Now I wonder, do you do these girls get tired or sometimes difficult to work with during rehearsals? Like how do you deal with this type of situations? Or now if you encounter them, do you give your feedback or assessment to the organization in terms of which girls are, are already have are already not feeling the hang of it?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go back to setting the mood in the rehearsal space. When I would set that rehearsal space up for everyone to have a good time, I wanted them to all experience the rehearsal space differently for each other. So when the ladies would come into the rehearsal space, I always made it fun for them. And even if they were crabby or tired or they didn't want to be there, they at least got a chance to kind of just hang out. And there was no pressure on them. And I made them very clear that this is a big deal. We have a big show to do. And, I want to do the best for you and you do the best for me. And we just kind of work together. Again, when you come on a spiritual level, it's a much better way than a bossy level.
Yes, yes, exactly. Now, apart from being a choreographer, we also know you as the bouquet guy because you have been assisting the crown holders during the crowning. That you have been assisting the title holders in crowning the new queen during the crowning moment. For you, what was the most memorable crowning moment out of those that you have been part of?
Well, how that came about was this: is that the queen that was leaving would usually give the crown and then the flowers. But what would happen is that a lot of times they didn't know where to go. So I didn't like the way that they kind of stood there and go, well, do I go right or do I go there? And they were confused, and I didn't want them to look confused. So I stepped in there and started to move them out of the way quickly so we could get to the winner. And then it just kind of built upon that. And I just I put myself into that position because it was important, I thought, for me to create the energy of that time. I didn't want it to be falling on its face like, well, now what? Oh, somebody missed the crown. So the crown fell, the flowers fell, the girl fell. No, we wanted to move that along so that climax was really important for the ending of the show. So that's why I put myself there. All of them were wonderful remembrance for me. I loved to do them all. It was just fun to get in there and swoop them through and take them off and give them the flower and kiss them and then be done. It was just a good way of getting it done.
I've always thought the reason why you were why you were always there during the segment was because you were so handsome, and that
Well,
the
not so
camera
handsome
loves
now. I'm
you.
old now, but that's okay.
Yeah. So, but being kidding aside, do you also get? Did you also get to predict? As you were watching the whole show all the time, do you also get to predict that the correct top two? Like like, oh, this I think this girl will win every time. Those last two girls standing side by side with each other.
It's interesting. I say that I would always kind of know who could win, and then all of a sudden I get knowing everybody, and I never really predict a winner until that night. And then it depends on the top 10. And then whoever's in that top 10 and then the top five, then I'll kind of go with who I think. But more than not, I never really did predict a winner. I just was not into putting favoritism in any space because it just kind of it clouded up my idea of keeping everybody fair and safe.
I like that how I like how you have been very 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 um how am I supposed to say this? You're
Respectful to the
you're
ladies.
respectful. Yeah, you're
Yes.
very respectful to the ladies.
Yes.
Yeah, because I've always thought that probably the organization could be playing favorites, but no.
Well, I know there's times when people had thought that, well, and there was times when Donald Trump owned the company, he would put certain girls in the top 15 or whatever. I didn't ever get involved in that. I just was not part of it. But I did really recognize that when there was a girl who was not being seen, maybe by the media, and I thought she was just perfect and beautiful, I would kind of bring her around and bring her up a little bit so people recognize that she, because maybe she got lost in the group. And sometimes I would just make sure that people would notice a certain girl who wasn't quite maybe outgoing as the rest of them.
Is it okay to ask who was that girl you were
Oh,
referring to?
well,
Can you still
you know,
remember her
I couldn't
name?
even tell you the name, and I wouldn't even be able to tell you now. I know that sometimes, let's just talk about the Asian culture. A lot of times, the Asian culture is a little bit more reserved, and so on. So sometimes that particular beauty is not seen in the front like a South American Latino girl. So that is okay, but we need to still see her. So how do we then give her a little bit more emphasis on just pulling her out of the crowd a little bit more?
Yeah. All right. So, um, since you can't mention the name of the girl that you were referring to, at least probably you could still remember some of your most favorite Miss Universe title holders.
Oh my gosh, yes. Celia Boloco was one of my favorites. She was long, long ago, but Celia was just wonderful. I really loved her, and I loved all of the ones that I've ever worked with because they were so deserving. Every girl who enters, or every lady who enters those pageants and wins their country, and then goes on to Miss Universe, she's pretty special in a whole nother way. And so when they get to that place, I want them to be able to shine the best that they know they can be. Because if they have given their best effort, then it's up to God and the world to see. It's nobody judges them because they've done their very best, and they really were the best of what God created them to be at the time. So I like that better.
I'm curious to ask, what is it about? What is the quality about Cecilia from Chile that made you remember her even up until now?
Well, I think Celia, I was still young, very young. I was working as an assistant then. And when I was an assistant, I was still in awe, like you would be, Adam. You know, like, oh my God, Miss Universe. Woo! I can't believe, right? And so,
Yes, yes.
yes. So I was kind of like, I got used to it as we went along, but I had to remind myself that, these ladies are very young. They're only 22, 23, some maybe 25, maybe 26, but that's as old as they are. And
Hmm.
when they're that age, they still have such insecurity that I think my best objective was to make them feel comfortable and beautiful no matter what they were.
True. But apart, yeah, exactly, sir. But what I love also about your work is that you're not only limited to the Miss Universe pageant system, but you also branch out to Miss USA, both Miss USA and Miss US Teen USA pageant systems as well. I wonder, is there a process different from each pageant since it's a different demographic, or are the dances totally different from each other?
Well, Miss Universe has a whole nother vibration going there because it's all different cultures.
Yes.
When it's Miss USA and Miss Teen USA, we pretty much come from the same regions, right? I mean, we come from the United States, so there's a common thread that the Miss USA and the Miss Teens kind of sew together. But the Miss Universe becomes this great big tapestry of all characters and people. And when it comes to Miss Universe, I went and then worked with Miss Brazil, and I choreographed Miss Puerto Rico many years, and some of those other pageants. And I recognize that every culture in their country has a certain flair.
Yes, flair.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you get to Universe, you kind of have to play out all of the flair because it doesn't just resonate in one body. You have to let all of them have a moment. And that's why I loved the opening number because you got to see that.
Do you think it's about time that the Miss Universe organization bring out the opening dance number back again in the limelight?
Only if it's not done stupid and goofy. You
What do you
know,
mean?
well, I'll tell you. If you're going to make them dance silly hip hop or anything, you're barking up the wrong tree. You've got to present them with what they do best. And for me, that's walk and turn. Some of them can do some arms, some of them can do some hands, but mostly they walk beautifully. So if you're going to present them in an opening presentation, if you notice a lot of my numbers is a lot of walking.
Yes.
And I like that because they can do that and make themselves look really good doing it. So I don't want an opening number to come back. I'm retired anyway now, so I really don't have a dog in the race, as they say. But I do recognize that when there is a opening production, it cannot be frivolous or silly or goofy. It's got to have sophistication to it because these ladies are really the top of the line, and you don't want to make them look even less silly.
Yeah, but why do you think, in your opinion, I want to ask, just curious to ask, in your opinion, why do you think they have already scrapped out this opening dance number nowadays, in
Well,
this era?
Paula Shugart is a dear friend of mine, and I used to tease her about this a lot because Paula now has been the uh, president of Miss Universe for, gosh, many years. And Paula, I always would tease her by saying she wasn't a dancer. So Paula was never one that really wanted to see that dance kind of stuff happening in an opening because I think she thought it was a little silly and a little not natural. But I also recognize that by taking that away, the opening number does not give all of the contestants an opportunity, a fair opportunity, to relax and be part of the production. So by taking that away, you're kind of cutting out a lot of personal progress and esteem building. I think esteem building that some of those ladies could get. So I think Paula doesn't like dancing because it looks goofy, and Paula doesn't profess to be a dancer. But I would like them to have dance back in there, just not silly dance.
I'm curious to ask, do you still get to talk to, do you still get to keep in touch with Miss Paula Sugar? Like, Paula, bring back the opening dance number.
Well, I would certainly say it would be a great thing to do. But again, you'd have to design it so it has polish and it has some some really great elements to it production wise because just to put them on stage to dance would be frivolous and silly, but to present them is a whole nother way. And I think that the Miss Universe today is missing the presentation element of Miss Universe.
Oh, all right. Point well taken, sir. Yeah. So, uh, there's a question here. I want to make a follow up question, but I feel like it's inappropriate. I'll just probably ask you in private.
Okay.
Okay. So there's a question here from Alfonsi. Like, since we're talking about a lot of dance movements, dance
Yeah.
routines in this interview, can you tell us the story behind the dance steps in Miss Congeniality? It's so iconic.
Oh yeah. Well, Miss Congeniality was a. They came in to see a Miss Universe pageant. The producers and the television and Sandra Bullock and all of the people came to see a Miss USA show, and they came to see a Miss Universe show. And so what I told them, I said, I would I would design your film basically how I design the production numbers. So these ladies get a chance to be seen. And they're like, well, yes, we'll do exactly what you want, Scott. So And I thanked Glenn Weiss, who was our director, and Paula Shugart, and everybody else who was part of it on the film. If you look in the credits, I have a bunch of thank yous to those guys for letting me do this film. But the film itself was really based on reality because that's what I did in my life. I did those kind of productions, and what they did is they imitated my life on screen.
True. All right. So there's another question here from Alfonsi. Like, who's the best Miss Universe candidate or country, if you can remember, that dances well in all your production numbers, at least from your experience?
Well, I'll tell you, every year there's a whole nother group of ladies that come into our lives. So I wouldn't be able to say one particular country, but I would say that the Latin American girls do have a rhythm that the rest of the world doesn't quite have. They know how to boom, boom, shake, shake, but ain't boom, ah, ah, ah. And they're good at that. But now
Yeah.
the other contestants or ladies, some of them just have a modeling sense about them that works for them. And I think that a lot of the European girls have a really great walk. The Russian girls have a really heavy runway walk, working ramp walk. And I think the Asian girls have a wonderful style of detail. Their hands and their movement is soft and easy. So you have to incorporate all of that, I think, into one to really come up with it. But usually there would be about 20 of the Miss girls that could dance very good. And I wouldn't
Yeah.
be able to tell you what country they're from.
All right, fair enough. So many questions are coming in. So, from Louisa Burchell, he has a follow up question about my Miss Congeniality question. Do you still dance to that song, to that 1 in a million song, even up to this day?
Always. I love that song. And you know, the song itself came to me as a ballad. 1 in a million. It was really soft and easy and slow. And I told the designer of the music, I said, we've got to really make that pop. So let's start with it really slow. 1 in a million, they're walking slow. Boom, boom, boom. And then it would go into those beats. And that's really when it kicked in. And I think that really made the number sell. One thing that Sandra Bullock did, though, was she kept the full dance number in the movie. She didn't cut any of it out. She loved it so much.
Oh, it's only now that I am finding it out. Wow, thank you for that trivia. That's so generous of you. Yeah, we really loved that movie so much. It was so iconic. I felt like even the scene there where she slipped during after her transformation. I don't know where Michael Caine did her transformation, but then she slipped, right? So we felt like that particular scene was like a tribute to our Filipina candidate who slipped on stage a year before.
Oh, yes, for sure.
See, that's why we're thinking. I'm really trying to connect everything, but yeah, that's just me. That's really that's the Filipino